Good evening and welcome. This is Africa Focus News Update on KOW TV, coming to you from the hills of Hargeisa. We delve into the heart of every story that matters across our continent. My name is Maurice Mbugua, and today we begin with a world held hostage by a conflict that shows no signs of an exit as the war with Iran enters its 13th day. The new Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei has broken his silence. In a message delivered by a state anchor amidst intelligence reports that he may have been injured in the opening strike, Khamenei confirmed a staggering level of personal loss, including his father and several close relatives. But the tone was one of defiance, not mourning. He vowed that every Iranian life lost would be treated as a separate case for retribution and demanded that Gulf nations immediately shut down US military bases, calling American protection a lie. This rhetoric has sent the global economy into a tailspin. For the first time in nearly 4 years, Brent crude has shattered the $100 barrier, a 54% surge in less than 2 weeks. This isn't just a market trend, it is an incoming catastrophic surge in the cost of living. For the average African family, $200 oil is a surgical strike on their purchasing power, threatening to push essential goods out of reach. Sky-high transport fees are rapidly translating into punishing costs for basic nutrition, leaving millions from Ghana to South Africa facing an impossible financial burden. In nations where cheap energy is the lifeblood of the economy, this fuel-induced price shock is more than an inconvenience. It is a threat to the industrial future. We are watching a regional military escalation turn into a systematic. In nations where cheap energy is the lifeblood of the economy, this fuel-induced price shock is more than an inconvenience. It is a threat to the industrial future. We are watching a regional military escalation turn into a systematic crisis that hits the poorest the hardest. The battlefield itself is expanding. Iran has now targeted oil infrastructure in Iraqi waters, setting tankers ablaze near Basra and forcing a total suspension of Iraqi terminal operations. With 3.2 million people displaced in Iran and the US quietly lifting some Russian oil sanctions just to keep the world moving, the humanitarian and economic toll has become historic. Despite Iran's president offering 3 conditions for peace, including war reparations, the response from Washington remains focused on military objectives, leaving the world braced for a long and painful winter of discontent. Closer to home, Somaliland is rapidly evolving from a regional legal debate into the ultimate frontline of a global power struggle. The National Insurance Authority recently held technical sessions with Trademark Africa to finalize the framework for the Berbera Corridor. While this may seem like local regulation, its implications are global. By securing the logistics and transport moving through the ports, Somaliland is essentially building a world-class insurance firewall that protects the very trade route the rest of the world is currently fighting over. But the real story lies in the shifting alliances beneath the surface. Israel's historic recognition of Somaliland last December was far more than a routine diplomatic handshake. It was also a calculated move to secure a foothold in the Red Sea. By establishing full ties and exploring military cooperation, Jerusalem is directly countering Ankara's long-standing dominance in the region. For years, Turkey has used military training and economic pacts to anchor its influence in Mogadishu, but Israel's presence in Hargeisa has completely redrawn the map. The backlash from Turkey was swift, with President Erdogan branding the recognition as illegal and a threat to regional order. However, what we are witnessing is a clash of 2 very different visions for the Horn of Africa. On one side is a model often built on dependence and ideological appeals. On the other, a new Somaliland-Israeli alignment grounded in pragmatic security partnership and effective sovereign governance. At stake is not just Somaliland's status as a nation, but the broader question of who will control one of the world's most critical maritime choke points. Somaliland is no longer waiting for a seat at the table, it is building the table itself. Further south, Uganda has sent a bold message to the West regarding the future of African mobility and sovereignty. In a new policy move, Kampala has announced visa-free entry for citizens of 40 countries, a list that pointedly excludes the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union. Instead, the focus is on regional neighbors like Kenya and Rwanda and global partners like the UAE and Singapore. Travelers from these selected nations can now stay for up to 3 months for tourism or businesses without the struggles of a visa. Now, this decision is widely viewed as a direct response to the strict visa rules recently imposed on Ugandans by Washington, which included a staggering $15,000 bond for certain travelers. By opening its doors to Africa and the Commonwealth while tightening requirements for the West, Uganda is effectively remapping its diplomatic landscape, prioritizing alliances within the global South over traditional Western ties. The government has also revised its diplomatic travel list to prioritize nations like India, Russia, and Iran, a move that reflects a changing diplomatic alignment in East Africa. For the first time in years, the gold standard of Western passports is being challenged by a policy that reflects a commitment to regional integration and people-to-people ties within the continent. Finally, as the bombardment of Tehran continues, a frantic humanitarian effort is underway to protect African nationals caught in the crossfires. The Nigerian government has begun the safe evacuation of its citizens, escorting them across the Armenian border to escape the ongoing strikes. While the exact numbers haven't been released, the Diaspora Commission confirmed that no Nigerians have been harmed so far, with embassy officials stationed at the border to provide immediate relief. This rush to extract is being mirrored across the continent. Tanzania has already welcomed the first group of citizens back from the UAE, with emotional reunions taking place at the airport in Dar es Salaam. For these families, the war is no longer a distant news report, but a terrifying reality that almost cost them their loved ones. As Iran reports that over 1,200 people have been killed in the conflict so far, African nations are making it clear that their priority is bringing their people home before the regional exits are sealed forever. And that is our report for this evening. From the high-stakes diplomacy in Hargeisa to the emergency borders of Armenia, we stay committed to the stories that shape our world. And for the entire Africa Focus team here, my name is Maurice Mbugwa. Thank you for watching.